Why stone, brass, or glass? One day I was actually home cooking, and we have different pans for bread making, and we've got one. I was going through the pantry, and I wasn't sure which one to use. We had a glass one, there was a stone style, and then there was like that brass copper colored kind. And I'm like thinking, stone, brass, or glass, which one do I use? It's a good variety there. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's it. That'd be a good album name, a band name, song name. So I wrote it down real quick. And when I finished writing this album, there's a good variety of songs in there, from folk Americana rock to a little bit of jazz, some blues, some alternatives. So I'm like, it's got variety. And that name was still in my head. So I'm like, let's call it stone, brass, or glass. And that's where it came from. It's one of those things. Falls Lake. That one I was one of the first. I just began to write songs, and a lot of them were subpar. They didn't really mesh well lyrically and musically. This was one of the first ones I actually got that was complete and sounded pretty good. Basically, I was listening to some Government Mule, some Southern blues stuff, and it came out one day. The lyrics started to come out. I was thinking back to where I used to live in North Carolina, right outside of Creedmoor, a spot called Falls Lake. We used to go out there, hang out, bonfires, drink. Somebody would always be around with a guitar playing. And those words just came out. And then I put it to music, and it really had that kind of Nirvana, about a girl feel, which I wasn't going for, but also at the same time had kind of a CCR, being that John Fogerty is a big influence. Some of that came out into it, and then a little solo riff. Very simple. CCR kind of feels what I was shooting for. And that's how Falls Lake came to life. Personal experiences mixed with some southern kind of folk rock, and there you have it. I was trying to experiment a little bit with chord progressions, kind of tired of the key of G folk Americana stuff, and I decided to play around and work with a major seventh and minor sevenths, and going from a typical A chord to the A major seventh to an A dominant seventh, and then to the fifth of the key of A, which is the D, kind of opened up a new door for me, and I was like, I really like that, so I started building on it, threw in some minor sevenths in there. And it's not full jazz, but it has a little bit of that jazz feel to it. And the lyrics pretty much speak of running into an old person from the past, and wondering if they have, if they have anything to say about the past, or if they're just going to walk on and not acknowledge you still. But a little bit of pain and personal experiences in there, hidden with some just hidden messages. But my attempt to touch on jazz. Actually came about pretty quickly. I was actually on Facebook seeing a friend of mine. She had posted some pictures of some love letters, and was upset and was going to burn them. And from that point on, I just started laying the idea around that. And basically, chord progressions, nothing, no rocket science there. Very simple, 90s alternative kind of just key of G feel. And but it's about young love, heartache, pain, and a little simple melody in there as far as the intro and the solo. Nothing too crazy there. Just a very simple love kind of song. So. his lyrics originally and had a couple lines. Basically, it was talking about, I was trying to write about getting older, being in my mid 30s, and looking back on that Generation X during the 90s, growing up as a kid in the 80s, and I started to put it in a sequential order as childhood, teenage years, and then now in my 30s looking back. And once again, I was trying to do a little bit of a jazz feel, and I incorporated minor sevenths in there again and major sevenths. And the song basically just talks about getting older, looking back at our youth, and just kind of seeing it burn away. And anyone, I guess, can relate to that no matter what generation you're from. And this song particularly deals with Generation X getting older. But Age of Youth, it's my attempt at another touch on personal inflection through a little bit of jazz. Street. That's another fun one. That one I actually wanted to play around with. I was learning modes and working with modes, and I decided to just go with a very simple E minor kind of feel. And it started, as I was strumming on the guitar, it kind of came out as a Latin, Spanish kind of feeling. So I kind of went with that, and I decided to try some Aeolian, some Phrygian and Dorian stuff in there over each chord as I was playing it, and then working on the riffs, the main riff and then the chorus riff. Just pretty much came out as I was noodling around one night. Lyrics are pretty much the Spanish feel, very centered around a fictional character, basically. Young Spanish girl, a dancer, and there's a heist and all that involved. I don't want to give too much away, but it's mostly a fictional story. There's not really anything. There's a couple little hidden things in there, little hidden gems if you know me, but other than that, mostly fictional. But that was my attempt at some Latin kind of music, a little bit of Santana thrown in there. So